Okay, so to prepare my chicken, I'm going to use these scissors to open it. And I'm going to open it over this strainer over the sink because it's packed in salmonella flavored juices. So I stick it in there. Under my sink is a mess, but I also have some little gloves. And it's always a good idea when you're handling raw meat, especially if you're not familiar with how to handle it, to wear some little gloves. So here they are. And I will say I'm not super familiar with handling raw meat. So I think it's handy to put them on. I'm gonna set up my phone here. See if I can do it. I don't know. I can. This is trickier than I thought. Yeah, doesn't really work. I should also mention that I was kind of hoping that one of or two of my autistic kids would want to help me with this and do the recording, but neither one of them's that into this recipe or wanting to participate. So I'm on my own and I'm trying to prop this so you can kind of see. All right, these are the gloves. Put them on. And then I take my scissors. Hopefully you can see this, I have no idea. And I cut the bag of chicken open, and then I plop it into my strainer. Let's see. You got that. So there it is. I have opened my chicken. I'm taking this empty bag and I'm bringing it to the trash because I don't want this sitting around and dripping on things. All right, so there's my big blob of chicken. According to the recipe, it all needs to be about the same size. So I am going to use my scissors to cut this chicken. These are kitchen scissors, and they're very, very handy. I cannot tell you how handy these guys are. Unfortunately, I can't really hold the camera and do this at the same time. Oh, here comes my cat to help again. Smells good. Yeah, just move him out of the way. All right, trying to figure this out. So I can put it, maybe I'll figure out how to edit this later. All right. Hopefully you have a bit of a view of that. All right. Now we need the cat, a bunch of paper towels. This is another area where you have to be really careful about salmonella, and you have to be really careful handling your meat. She wants you to dry it thoroughly, which means you're going to be handling this meat quite a bit. And you're going to be needing lots and lots of paper towels. So first, what I'm doing with this chicken is I'm cutting the fatty pieces off because I don't like fat. It's chewy and it's yucky, so I'm not going to eat it. Now I have this breast, and I'm just going to cut it into strips. These strips are nothing fancy. This is what they look like. And this is what I'll be stir frying with any luck. I'm gonna take it, put it on a paper towel, and cut the next strip. Rana wants these strips to be all about the same thickness, which is tricky for some of us. So I'm just doing the best I can. Here's another one. I really can't recommend kitchen scissors enough because they really do help make things a lot easier. Even though it's not perfect, we're not going for perfection. We're going for being able to eat something healthy for dinner without, oh, look at that. I cut the tip off my glove. At least that wasn't my finger. All right, here's another one. These are not really super similar in size, but I'll just do the best I can because in the end, it's no big deal. As long as it's cooked thoroughly, we won't get food poisoning, and that's the important part. So I'm now cutting up my second breast. There were 3 breasts in this pack. So I'm just cutting this guy up, trying not to get any pieces of my rubber glove in the chicken, because that would be gross. But again, not the end of the world, so. All right, this is the last one that I am cutting. Cutting right up. All right, so now I'm gonna pick up the camera and show. So here's the remains. Kind of fatty, kind of gross, not gonna use them. Here's my pile of little slivers. And there's my cat jumping down. He lost interest. Now, these little slivers have to be dried thoroughly, according to Rana. So, I'm gonna take some more paper towels. I keep them handy right here so that I can just grab them. And here we go. We're drying these guys. Really, really drying them out. As you can see, there's a lot of handling of raw meat here. So it is really important to be careful. And if you prefer, tofu is safer, but a lot of people don't like tofu, and that's okay. Whatever you like. You can also, if you want to make this a little easier, you can go to the store and buy a pack of sliced chicken breast. And then you don't have to do this part, which is kind of nice, because this part's a little tedious and kind of a pain in the neck. All right, I am drying these guys all off as best I can. They're still like kind of shiny, so I don't know if they're dry enough, but I don't really want to mess with them that much more because they're starting to fall apart. So now I'm going to take my scissors, put them in the sink, and then I'm going to take my scraps of grossness and dump them in the trash. Now, when you do this, you want to take your trash out like tomorrow because it'll start to stink. All right, I think I dropped a little piece of chicken on the floor when I was doing that, but now I don't see it. Hopefully the cats will eat it if it's there. All right, now I'm gonna take my gloves off because I don't need them anymore. And I'm gonna wash my hands just in case. I'm gonna put my gloves in the trash. And then wash my hands. Safely handling meat is a really important skill to have in the kitchen, because you don't want to get food poisoning. That's no fun. All right, my hands are clean. I'm gonna dry them off with some paper towels. And now we'll see what's next on this list of things to do. Alrighty, here's my onion, my garlic. Okay. So I have now done this part. Cut it up. There it is in a little blobby pile. And now I can make the sauce. See, as you can see here, it says to cut up the chicken before you make the sauce. It says that right here. It's probably hard to understand, but that's what she means. Now we make the sauce. So I'm going to get a bowl. She says a medium bowl, and I'm not sure what medium means. Like a medium mixing bowl or a medium ice cream bowl. I'm gonna go for like just one of these bowls up here. These are kind of small, and I'm worried they'd be too small. So I'm going to go with this guy. It's a little bigger. And I'll put them here. And then I'm going to need to get my tablespoons, my teaspoons. So in my drawer here, I have this handy little magnetic stack of measuring spoons. This is the tablespoon. I'm gonna need him. And I'm going to need my teaspoon. And I'm going to need my half a teaspoon. There it is. The rest of these guys I don't need. So I'm gonna put them back in the drawer so I don't have to think about it. In they go. Alrighty. So in a medium bowl, use a fork or a whisk to mix together the soy sauce, 4 tablespoons of soy sauce. I sure wish I had a little stand for my camera, but I don't. All right, let's see. So here's my tablespoon. I need 4 of these tablespoons. I'm gonna take it over here to my bowl. For the adults in the audience, I almost always have a can of beer with me while I cook because I hate cooking so much. All right. Into this little measuring spoon, I will pour very carefully 1 tablespoon. Pour that into the bowl, and now I have to do that 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. I like these tablespoons because there's 2 sides, So if I use this side for liquid, I can use this side for dry. And I don't have to wash it out. It's really handy. Got it on Amazon. All right, so I'm done with my soy sauce. I'm gonna put it back in the fridge because seeing a lot of ingredients on the counter stresses me out. So as soon as I'm done with them, I put them back, and then I feel a little better seeing them slowly dwindle away. The next ingredient is the chili sauce or sriracha, which I don't have. And then 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. Here's my brown sugar. Need to open that, but also record. So I'm gonna stand this up again, not against these Oreo cookies that are so handily here. Let's see if I can do that. All right. Here's my brown sugar. Now I've already forgotten what the measurement is, so I'm gonna take a peek at it again. And it says 2 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon. So I'm gonna remember it this time because 3rd time's a charm. So 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons, and then I need a teaspoon. A teaspoon. Here we go. All right, that's all in there. Now I can put my brown sugar away and I can say, good job. One more ingredient off the list. And I'm going to take my brown sugar and put it away. All right, next. Having a hard time focusing. 1 scallion. There we go. 1 scallion, white and green parts, thinly sliced. And if you will recall, I do not have a scallion, but I do have this old onion. So I'm going to get out my cutting board. It's really important to use a cutting board because if you just use your countertop, you might scratch it. I also, in this really messy drawer, have something handy that every cook should have if they're nervous in the kitchen, and that's gloves that are special for cutting things with a sharp knife. So I'm going to put those gloves on before I cut up my onion. Something else to think about is the kind of knife you use. This is my only knife. I use him for everything. He's all I've got, and I love him very, very much. So I'm going to set this up again, see if I can. This is so tricky for me. Again, nice, I had a little help, but that's okay. All right, let's see. Okay, hopefully you can see me. I'm putting my gloves on. These are really great. They're called Stark gloves, cut level 5. That way, if I have a knife, I can hit myself with it and it's not going to do any damage. And that's great because sometimes using a knife in the kitchen is really scary, and now I don't have to feel scared. You can also use these when you're grating something, using a grater or a microplaner, which is a tool that Rana used in her kitchen for her fresh ginger and her fresh garlic. So I cut the ends off my onion. I don't really know if this is the way you're supposed to do it. I taught myself a lot of my cooking skills. So I peel, whoops, I dropped my knife. Peel the outside off the onion. Now, her ingredients, they say 1 scallion. A scallion, I know, is smaller than this onion. So, I'm only going to use a little bit of the onion because honestly, I don't even like onions. So I'm cutting it into, it says thinly sliced, so I'm gonna thinly slice some of this onion. I'm not sure if you're able to see it, but here are the little slices. And as far as I can recall, this recipe says just to stick them right in the sauce. Let me make sure. In a medium bowl, use a fork or a whisk to mix together the soy sauce. Oh, rice wine vinegar. I forgot that. Oh yeah, scallion. Yep, so that goes in too. Well, I'll do the rice wine vinegar next since that is what she said. So, again, I don't have rice wine vinegar, but I do have white wine vinegar, and I figure that kind of rhymes, so it must be about the same. White wine vinegar, she says 4 tablespoons. So here we go. I just opened it. I'm gonna give it a little sniff. It smells like vinegar to me. And we need to put 4 tablespoons in. So here's 1. There's my chicken sitting there waiting. Ooh, look at me, my hand is shaking. That's because I'm a little bit nervous. Pouring stuff, measuring it. Also knowing that this is the meal my family's gonna eat. And if they don't like it, all of this work would be for nothing. That's kind of stressful and not a lot of fun to have to do every day. All right, this is the last one. Here we go. That goes in. So we got the brown sugar, rice wine vinegar. We don't have the chili sauce. All right, then we just need I'm gonna stick these little onions in and hope for the best. Plop. Now we need the ginger and the garlic. Here's where we decide whether we want to use our knife again and mince this garlic with the gloves on the cutting board, or since it's already 4:24 and we're still in the thick of it, I think I'm just gonna scoop out some of my pre-minced garlic. And I'm not even gonna care if it smells a little old. So here we go. How much garlic, you ask? I will tell you. 1 teaspoon of minced garlic. I'm opening it now. There it is. Oh, it actually smells really good, so I don't have to worry about that. A nice teaspoon. Oh, this is the half teaspoon. We need the teaspoon. All right, scoop it up. That looks pretty good. Dump it in. You know what I just remembered? I should have started the rice, because you can't really have a stir fry without rice. So I'm gonna pause the stir fry part and put some rice in. Up here is where I hang my pots. I hang them up there so that I can always know what's clean and what I need to clean, because that's a whole thing. All right. I store the lids on the pot handle. That way I don't have a whole searching for the lid ordeal on top of everything else. All right, so here's my rice. Inside my rice, I have this scooper. Rice is pretty easy. You scoop 1 part rice. In this case, I'm making 2 of these scoopers. So 1 part rice to 2 parts water. So I have 2 cups of rice in there, so I'm putting in 2 cups of water. I mean 4 cups of water. 4 cups of water. There we go. Okay. There we go. Now, I take my pot. Some people might have a rice cooker. That's fancy and nice and easy. I had one, but whenever I used it, it would spill over all over the place and make a mess all over my counter. So I said, the heck with that. I'll just go back to using a pan and making my rice the old-fashioned way. All right. Put my rice back because I'm all done with that little ingredient that snuck up on me. Because I don't know anyone who eats a stir fry without some kind of little starch to go with it. All right, now for my rice, what I do is I put it on high, my rear burner. You always want to double check before you turn it on that you know what you're doing. So I always check, okay, yep, this is on the rear, and this is the burner I'm using. And I put it on high. I put it on high, and then I wait for it to boil. When it starts to boil, I turn it down all the way and put a cover on it. So while I am making this sauce and this chicken, I also now have to keep an eye on my rice and be aware of when it's boiling so that I can then put a cover on it and turn it down. All right, where were we? We put the vinegar in, so I'm going to put the cover on that and stick it back in my little spinny cupboard. We did the garlic, so I'm going to put that back, and I'm also going to put this dried garlic back because I didn't use him and I don't want him staring at me in the face, mocking me. In he goes, right on top of my old mushrooms. Okay, so what else do we have to put in here? Oh, the ginger. All right, so according to this, it says 1 teaspoon of freeze-dried ginger equals 1 teaspoon of fresh ginger. This says 1 teaspoon of grated ginger. So I'm just going to put a teaspoon of freeze-dried ginger right into my little mix. Because why not? Let's see what happens. Kerplunk. Little ginger. It's going to go home to its little spot. Now, I'm supposed to use a fork or a whisk to stir this little sauce. I only have big whisks, so I'm going to use this fork and try to mix it together. It's kind of mixing. It's a little tricky with those big onions, but All right, now, as you can see, it is now 4:31. We are almost done with the making the sauce part, but we're not done yet. Not by a long shot. All right. So this is all mixed up as best I can. I'm going to set it aside. And now I'm going to stare at my chicken because this is a lot of work. Not fun, a little overwhelming. But we soldier on because everybody has to eat. All right, it says, use the paper towels, pat your chicken till very dry, sprinkle with cornstarch to coat the pieces evenly. She says a half a teaspoon or more of cornstarch. A half a teaspoon looks like this. It's like the size of my thumb. For all of this chicken, I have a feeling it won't be enough. And she says to sprinkle that half a teaspoon of cornstarch onto the chicken to coat the pieces evenly. So I'm gonna do exactly what she says. Here's my cornstarch. I'm dipping my half teaspoon in. There we go. I've got a half a teaspoon. Maybe a little bit goes a long way and I'm really not understanding. So I've never done this before, so it could be that. All right. I am now coating my chicken evenly with cornstarch. Does that look even? I don't think so. I think I'm going to have to mix my chicken around to try to get it all coated. If I do that, I'm going to need to get another glove because I don't want to touch the raw meat and get salmonella. That would be like the icing on the cake at this point. All right, oops, my rice is almost boiling. Look at that. Sometimes I give it a little stir and see if it's really boiling or was it just faking me out. And I'll rest the spoon up here because that's handy for now. It doesn't seem to be boiling now, so I'll leave it alone. All right, back to my chicken. I am putting a glove on my hand so that I can evenly coat my chicken with this half a teaspoon of cornstarch. All right. This could take a minute because I don't know, it feels like half a teaspoon might not be enough. It's like not even touching some of the pieces. This guy got a lot, so he can share with his friends. But now he only has cornstarch in one little spot. So let's see. Would it help if I just picked it up and rubbed it on the other guys? I don't know. It feels like, well, she did say half a teaspoon or more. So I guess I'm going to go with the more option because I think it needs it. See this little piece of fat that's been bothering me? I'm going to take it off. I don't like the fat. It's chewy and it's disgusting. So I'm going to dump it in the sink and I'll get rid of it later. All right, now take a look at the rice. It's thinking about boiling. Oh, look at that. I think it's made up its mind. But now I've got this chicken contaminated glove on And if I pick up my spoon to stir my rice and then put my cover on, I'm gonna put chicken guts all over everything. So I gotta take this glove off, even though I'm not done with the chicken yet, because the boiling rice waits for no one. I give it another little stir. Just like that. And then I turn it all the way down because it gets really, really frisky if I don't do that. And I put the lid on, and then I set my timer because I can't remember anything if I don't. And I set it, believe it or not, for 17 minutes because for some reason that's how long this rice takes. I don't know why. It's not guaranteed to come out that great, but good enough. All right, it's now 4:37. I must keep in mind that 2 of my kids will not eat this, so I have to make something different for them. That can take a little bit of time. All right, so I've got to, now this glove is no good. It's inside out. I'm putting it in the trash. I gotta get another glove so I can try using a little more cornstarch on my chicken. These gloves are very handy, no pun intended. So make sure you grab some if you're going to be doing a lot of cooking. Even if you're not going to be doing much, they're still nice to have. Okay, so how about we try another half a teaspoon? We don't want to go crazy with this. So here we go. Oops, a little too much. All right. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Come on, you can do it. Alrighty, now here we go, rubbing my breasts all over with my glove. Alright, I don't know, like some of it is coated evenly, but some of it still doesn't feel very coated. Like this one isn't coated at all on that side. Here's a little bit of cornstarch stuck to the paper towel. Oh, a little piece of fat. Get rid of him and just stick him over here. Oops, this little piece never got any cornstarch. Maybe this guy can share some with him. All right, I think we might need another little bit of cornstarch. It feels like this still isn't enough because in her directions she says evenly coated, and some of them are still not evenly coated. Let's take a look at the rice. Looking pretty good. All right, so I gotta set my phone down because I need to scoop out more cornstarch with my hand that does not have a glove on it. I am scooping out another half teaspoon. So, all right, we have now put on 1.5 teaspoons of cornstarch onto these little breasts. Hopefully I'm not putting too much on because it makes me a little nervous to be putting so much more on than she directed. But maybe it'll be all right. Some of my paper towel is coming up as I try to do this. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm not cooking any paper towel when I finally start to, oops, This side doesn't have any cornstarch. Share and share alike, my little pieces. All right. I'm gonna say good enough on this. I don't know if that's wise, but I also kind of want to be done rubbing my breasts all over the place. But they're definitely, I would have to say, most likely not fully coated. But, you know, they're close enough, I think. So, there we go. Okay. It is now 4:41. We have 11 minutes on the rice. There it is. And we are probably just about ready for the next step. I'm going to take my little glove off again. Put it in the trash. What's the next step, you ask? I will tell you. All right. Sprinkle with cornstarch to coat the pieces evenly. Next, put a skillet or wok on the stovetop. Heat on high for 30 seconds. Add the canola oil. How much canola oil? 2 teaspoons of canola oil. These are my skillet options. I have a big cast iron skillet, and I have this big guy that's thinner, easier to clean, but he doesn't sit flat on my stovetop, so he cooks unevenly. But he's the one I'm going for because he doesn't take as long as the cast iron skillet. But now look at this. My stovetop is dirty. I can't put a pot on this burner because this stuff will all burn if I turn the burner on. This side contains my sloppy pile of breasts. So I think what I'm going to do is slide my breasts over to this burner. It's not on. This is because I have no working space. So this is just the way it goes. It's a small kitchen. But I bet a lot of people have small kitchens and they try to make it work. All right, I slid my chicken over. I'm making sure that it's not too close to the boiling pot of rice. And I'm noticing that this burner's a little wet. I'm not sure if that will be a problem, so I'm going to dry it with a little paper towel before I turn it on. Take my little beverage. Haven't even really partaken yet. And now I'm going to put my pot on the burner. It says to heat it on high for 30 seconds. I'm going to read ahead so I'm prepared. Add the canola oil after it's been heating for 30 seconds. So I take my canola oil and it says I need 2 teaspoons of it. Right? Yeah, 2 teaspoons of canola oil. It doesn't seem like a lot, but we're gonna go with it. I have this handy dandy little measuring cup for stuff like this that I like better than my measuring spoons because I can just pour it all in at once. But the measurements are faded. 2 teaspoons is right here. So I'm going to fill it up to this level. Let's see if I can do it. Oops, I spilled a little. That's okay. That happens a lot when you're cooking. All right, so I've got my oil ready. I've got my pan ready. I know that after my pan heats for 30 seconds, I'm going to add the oil and tilt the pan to coat the bottom of it evenly with the oil. And just as soon as the oil begins to smoke, carefully put the chicken into the oiled pan in a single layer. Do not move the pieces until their undersides have turned golden brown, about 2 minutes. Then flip over. All right, this part is kind of scary for many reasons. One is I'm using a hot stove. 2 is using oil on a hot stove. The oil can splatter, and that scares me because it might splatter on my face. So I'm going to have to be really careful and really brave. The other part that's kind of scary is I have to put this chicken in the pan in a single layer so that it's all touching the bottom of the pan, which doesn't heat evenly. I have these old tongs that were my grandmother's that I use for situations like this. That way I don't have to put an ever-loving glove on again. I can just pick up a piece and set it down, and it also gives me a little distance in case it splatters, but not much distance, so I'm still very nervous. All right, I am now turning my large burner, that's what this is, and it's in this position on the stove, and I'm putting it on high for 30 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now I'm going to add my oil. There it goes into the pan. And now she says to tilt my pan to spread the oil around evenly. Look at that hot burner. That's kind of scary, isn't it? This is a non-stick pan, but you still need the oil, I think. But it doesn't coat evenly because it's non-stick. It just kind of burbles up in different spots. Now we have to wait for the oil to smoke, which is, again, a little bit scary. Because to me, smoke means fire, and that's dangerous. But in this case, I think it's okay because she says to wait for it to smoke. I'm watching it carefully. I don't see any smoke yet. It's probably getting there. I don't know. Once I add this chicken, they have to cook for 2 minutes. So I'm going to start adding the chicken because I'm nervous. 1 breast. Ooh. Oops, I better do this fast though because they only have 2 minutes to cook and then I have to flip them over. Can't take me that long. Put them in. Then some will be done and some won't. I'm going as fast as I can while still being careful not to get splattered. There we go. Another one. Oh, come hard time. Oh, picking it up. Another one. My pan is getting pretty full. Hopefully that's okay. Now, I will mention that these paper towels are full of salmonella, so I'm going to have to wash everything that these paper towels touch. Alright. So far, I have not been splattered. I was very brave. I'm going to discard these disgusting things. But I have to remember, we've got 2 minutes before I flip these buggers. It's probably already been 30 seconds. But look, 2 minutes on the rice and that's done. I use these tongs to put the chicken in. I'm going to use them again to flip the chicken. And then these tongs are going in the sink, and I'm going to get my fancy tongs to finish the job. Because, of course, these guys have touched raw chicken, and they're not allowed to touch cooked chicken. It's been about a minute and a half. After I flip these guys, we'll read the next step. We've got to be getting close, but we don't have a vegetable yet. A lot of people like vegetables in their stir fry. I think I'm going to skip it this time. I think I've had enough time in the kitchen tonight. All right, here we go. We're starting to flip. Ooh, golden brown. Everybody needs to flip pretty fast. I wonder if I'm supposed to keep this on high heat. Boy, these are really hard to flip. They're kind of stuck together. Oops. This is a struggle. Of course, I am doing it with one hand because I'm holding my phone. That does make it a little more challenging. Oops, there's my timer saying my rice is done. I can't do anything with it because I'm still flipping my chicken. But a lot of us live alone, right? So we gotta do stuff on our own. I'm kind of gonna get used to that, I guess. All right. This chicken has been flipped. Yes, I understand. There's my rice. I'm turning it off. And I'm gonna slide it over so it doesn't cook anymore. And now, what's the next step? Flip over, pour the sauce into the pan. We're finally getting to the sauce. Here it is. I'm going to give it another stir just in case. And in it goes. Whoa. That really made a big splattery noise, didn't it? I'm going to use this spoon. I want my onions probably to get down in there, otherwise they're just going to be hard little slivers. And I need to cook a little bit. Alright, so we did that. Now, what's next? Pour the sauce into the pan. Use all of it if you want a lot of sauce. Okay, we did. Cook for 2 or 3 minutes, turning the pieces occasionally to coat with sauce. When it's warmed through or if the chicken is cooked, remove the pieces from the pan and continue to cook the sauce until it is thick. Adding the chicken back to the pan once it's reduced. turn off the heat, drizzle the sesame oil all over, serve immediately. Well, that sounds like an emergency, doesn't it? All right, so I am now going to kind of, stir these. I splattered myself a little bit. Stir these up because I want to be sure that they're all cooked through. I don't think I'm going to do the part where I take them out and then put them back in again. I think I'm just going to say it's done when the chicken feels like it's done. That's a pretty tricky thing to know. For the longest time, I used to cook my chicken too much until it was very, very tough and hard to eat because I was so afraid of getting salmonella. Now that I've been cooking for a long time, even though I hate it and I'd rather do anything else, now I kind of know the feel of chicken when it's done. It feels firm. And this chicken feels pretty firm. But you've got to check every piece because if your pan doesn't heat evenly or if you've got pieces in cold spots that haven't cooked through, you got to make sure. All right. But my sauce is pretty much gone now, so I'm going to turn it off. Turning it off. Remove from heat, so I slide it over here. See, I turned my burner off, but it's still bright red because it takes a long time for these burners to cool off. Induction stoves are a little bit better that way. Now she says to sprinkle with the sesame oil. It says half a teaspoon. At this point in the process, I have to say I'm a little sick of measuring stuff. So I'm just going to take my sesame oil and sprinkle it on and call it a day. And my Lord, I think we did it. The only thing that would have been nice would have been if I had had some vegetables to add. But we made the rice at least. We made the chicken. We made a mess. And we made some dishes. But all in all, a success. And it is now 4:59. And if you will recall, she did mention at some point in this recipe, takes about 10 minutes to set up the recipe and less than 5 minutes to cook it. So I think we got the time a little bit wrong, but it could be because we're beginners. But otherwise, there it is.